Mike Tramp. Hi, it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to be here.
It's been what, 10 years? You don't.
Yes.
You actually remember me, I think.
Yeah, and I don't even look any older.
No.
That's fantastic.
The last time I met you, though, you were still living in Australia.
Yes.
What made you decide to come back to Denmark?
Well, you know, I think that as a kid I set out with a dream, and you know, I followed through in that dream, and you know, along the road a lot of things changes, and it's sort of like it's up going in a circle. I haven't completely returned to Denmark and saying, okay, this is it. You know, I mean, I spent, you know, the 30 years traveling the world, and I have my older son, 17 years old, lives in Australia, and now my two little kids and my wife, we live in Indonesia. So it's just that Denmark has kind of become, over the past 10 years, the place that I create and record music. It started out with that if I had to go back home and visit my family, like my mom and stuff like that, I might as well do an album or a tour, because I couldn't just sit there and look out the window. So it just became like that, and one thing led to another, and now it's sort of like the base for where I feel comfortable in recording. You know?
So you don't feel like you're rooted here now, that you're still having like a door open?
Well, you know, the problem is that I almost do not know where I belong, you know, anymore, you know, because every place you've almost left something. I mean, I have so 21 years in America. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of great memories. I love the American way of life, and I almost wish that I somehow could move back there. And it's still a possibility to possibly go back and live in LA. It's just that there's just a lot of stuff that's more my way of life than the Northern European way, you know. So it's just what, you know. But here I have a lot of connections too. So I guess just one way or another, it'll be kind of like a nomad. You know, you move on when you need to move on, and you return when you need to return.
So what's everyday life like in Denmark as opposed to Australia? Is it any difference, or is it a lot different?
Well, I mean, at least Australia is closer to Denmark in many ways. It's just that the seasons are the opposite. But you know, believe it or not, Melbourne can almost get as cold as Denmark, and but the language is different, and you know, it's tough to explain in exactly what it is. But you know, we have a social system in Denmark that's other countries don't have, and somehow that have an impact on how musicians, for example, deal with things. When you're in LA and you're down at the bottom, and there's no help to get anywhere. Not from the system, you know, you got to go out and wash dishes or something else. And that also has an impact on the music, which makes the music much more real.
Yeah.
If you have too much of a safety net and too comfortable of a bed sleeping in, you're not going to create great rock and roll. At least not in the beginning.
When we last met, you said something that kind of stuck in my mind. You said that you loved the music, but you hated the business.
Yeah, and that still hasn't changed, and I would almost believe that a majority of people would say the same thing, because it's kind of like that the interesting stuff, or the thing that I love, is obviously writing the song, going into a rehearsal room, working with the band, preparing, and then going in and record, and that whole process. The second that album is done, and you hand it over to the record company, you let go of something and you can't control it anymore, or it's out of your hand and everything goes wrong after that. But while you're recording it and while you're writing the songs, everything is nice. It's almost like it can go either way. There's you know, but the second it becomes a physical album, stuff like that, now it's now a product.
But do you feel that it's a little bit different now with the internet, that gives you more possibilities to actually go out and do stuff yourself?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that obviously with technology, as much as I am against the speed of how the world is changing and the technology, it obviously also has a benefit for when an artist like myself or many other artists are not depending or in the hands of a major record company a lot of money and big MTV videos and so. You're actually now running your own shop out of the back of a garage, and you know, you have your website, and most of the time it's basically friends and fans that are helping you because you don't even have a budget for all those things. So no doubt now people in South America, in Sweden, in Australia can see the product and download a song, for example, at the same time, and that's how we exist today.
But you feel that you're more in control, maybe, with this?
It's not so much that I want to be in control. It's just that like you say, you love that part of the business, the creative thing part of it.
Yeah.
You love the shows, you know, you love the touring, but the business side, you know, when money gets involved, it ruins friendships and all kinds of stuff like that. Of course, this is our life. This is what we pay our rent from, playing rock and roll. So we're obviously doing for that. But you know, music first for me is my love, and I don't write the songs with money in mind. I write it because it just comes to me when I sit and play.
We're at the Rock here, and you're having your release party tonight.
Yeah.
For your new solo album and Stand Your Ground. What can you tell me about that?
Well, it's just one of those things you do, you know, where you combine a couple of different things. You invite the fans in. You know, we probably will never play this many songs from the new album as we just do tonight. Just like one little special thing, you know, some close friends and stuff like that. Just getting up there on stage and feeling it being quite a bit different. We've been in the studio, everybody has been on vacation for a while and stuff like that. It's kind of like, let's test the water.
Yeah, you're very happy with your album, I'm sure?
I'm extremely happy with the album, and it's not necessarily because it's much different. It's just that all the pieces fitted together from the start. It almost, not necessarily sound-wise, but it brings me closer to Freak of Nature, the way Freak of Nature worked as a band, how we recorded and so, where we put a lot of emphasis on recording it as live as we could, and because that's where really the feedback comes. I could sit anywhere in the world recording an album with robots, but I don't want to be a solo artist. I want to be in a band, and this is as close to a band as I can get.
You're gonna put like a bonus track on the Danish version.
Yeah,
of
the Danish record company asked if they could put him for Ronnie, the song that I wrote for Ronnie James Dio, which I made many months ago available for free download worldwide. So it's just one of those little things. We're tracking by your side.
Got like a little memory of Ronnie.
Without a doubt.
What did Ronnie mean to you, and what do you?
Well, I mean, from the second I heard the Rainbow the first time and Ronnie's voice, that it was instant, you know, love for that voice and his choice of melodies, and he's one of the only quote unquote heavy metal singers that never ever felt like you know that he was angry or something. Like it even at his most power, it still felt like he kept the soul and the melody and all that stuff under control. Later on, and obviously like even the songs that you know I followed obviously Ronnie to Sabbath and the main two albums he did with Sabbath, you know, Heaven and Hell and Marbles are my two favorite hard rock albums, you know, and. Later on in '93, a Freak of Nature toured with Ronnie James Dio and the Dio band and Ronnie was just the sweetest guy, and you know we were sitting there drinking red wine at night, and it was more like you were talking to your uncle than you were talking to, you know, a rock star which you admired. And Ronnie always kept that. And in 2005, we 12 years later, we played with White Lion Mark II. We played Bang Your Head, and Dio was also on. And 12 years had gone by, and suddenly, you know, Ronnie just come out, hey, no, where's Mike? And it's just one of those things that, you know, he was that kind of a person.
Yeah.
But obviously, Ronnie, the music was the first thing. That's what's there.
You mentioned White Lion. People still kind of think of White Lion when they hear your name. What's the status of White Lion now?
Well, the status of White Lion is obviously, you know, I tried a couple of times to go out and you know, play White Lion under, you know, with a new lineup, and it has been fun. And I'm not to say that I won't do it again, but there's no real chance of something legit. You know, I'm actually doing this against, you know, legal and so on. So, you know, Vito sits there and claim to own the name, and anytime, you know, I step out there, you know, he tries to sue me. I go out there and play the songs for the people.
So if you go away, I know that I will follow. 'Cause there's a place inside my heart that tells me, ah, baby, wait, wait. I never had a chance to love you. Wait, wait. If only our love could show you. Wait, wait. I never wanna be without you. Wait, wait. No, I never had a chance to love you. I only wanna say I love you one more time.
So, what are your plans now for the future, as far as you know?
We're not going to tour on this album before the fall, after the summer. We had planned to possibly play some festivals in Denmark or so and so, but now we've just looked at on how we want to do it and what makes sense. And late September we will start touring, and it will be all of Europe and Denmark and so and so.